Hello everyone and welcome back to Rewrite. And as you can see, I'm back here at the multiple choice segment during the scene where Kotaro meets the key for the first time on the Terra route. And I'm here because someone wrote me a comment that said I should check out the other choices here. You know, the ones that don't have those flames next to them. So let's do that. Let's see what happens if I choose capture it. I'll try to restrain it. I approach the key with malice. The girl's eyes pierce through me. The membrane twists around me as if a sudden gust of wind blew it onto me. The next moment, my right arm lands on the ground. Not just my arm. A huge amount of blood pours out from my head and chest. I faint almost instantly. I can't even tell how it attacked me. At one point, I briefly regain consciousness. In my hazy vision, a small shadow wavers. I recognize its hairstyle. Kotori? What? I lose consciousness again. I wake up years later. They tell me I've been sleeping in this hospital room for years. Did Kotori save us? My body has wasted away and it's covered in bed sores, so I suffer from that for quite a while. My memories become vague because of my head wound. But the doctors say my head wasn't injured. That's not true. I was trying to do something important. But I can't remember what. That confusion continues. Few people come to visit me. My parents and Kotori. And a few relatives I can't even remember the names of. My parents and other relatives argued a lot. I couldn't hear what it was about, but it felt like they were blaming me for something. One time, some people I didn't know at all came to visit me. I think it was at night. I remember being surprised that they allowed visitors that late. They asked me a number of questions. I answered as best I could. Some I couldn't answer at all. For some reason, I felt like I couldn't talk about certain things. So I didn't say anything about my weak little superpower. They talked in a low voice, then gave me strange injections. Several of them, one after the other. And then, before long, my mind slowly melts away. I spent my life normally. The Tennoji house has changed a little. My parents spend almost all their time at work, so I practically live here alone. It's an easy life, but it always feels cold in this house. I do think there's some affection here, though. As my middle school graduation approaches, I have to decide what high school to apply to. My parents visit a number of schools and talk to the principals there. They said it was for my sake. They get me into a nice high school, but I don't do very well and I don't make any friends. But my childhood friend Kambe Kotori stays with me the whole time, so I'm never sad. And, well, a lot happened. Eventually, I start thinking a lot. I realize I can't keep doing this. Humans need to enjoy their lives. Bright and cheerful, broad and shallow. So I set an objective for myself. I decide to put all my energy into doing things I won't be able to do in the future. Yes. I think I'm going to make a serious effort to enjoy my youth to the fullest. Okay then. Interesting. So does the same thing happen if I choose the second of the wrong options? Well, let's have a look. Let's destroy it. I have to destroy it. I approach the key with malice. That's probably the same thing, huh? Yeah. Okay then, let's continue where we left off last time, shall we? I feel like I just woke up from a long dream. I feel something hot in the back of my throat, making it hard to breathe. Those days feel like years ago. In reality, it hasn't even been 6 months here. These months have felt like 10 years to me. This is the first time in my life I've truly lived to my fullest. After I came here, I was quickly thrown into a life of constant upheaval. I spent the first few months in training. Compared to the back-breaking work I had to endure here, the training in Japan was just a warm-up. Since this is for superhumans, they expect ludicrous performance from all of us. As I desperately tried to keep up with it, for better or for worse, I didn't even have the time to worry about anything else. I had a lot of firsts here. My first step on foreign soil. My first time shooting a gun. My first time seeing true poverty. My first time being attacked by a group of armed men. And today, my first time killing someone. I can't explain this very well. I guess it feels like I finally found an alternative punishment. I know that in reality all I've done is deep my sins. But it feels like I have some closure on that now. The life of a soldier has been beaten into me and I've crossed the line for good. There's no longer any need to look back. The earth in this country is red. Just like the blood in this country. That's all I have to say about it. Our trucks return to camp. I take the bullet out of the chamber and flick the safety on. I can finally breathe. This is the only place where I can let my guard down. I help carry some equipment, then head back to the hangar we're using as a barracks. As always, this place is a mess. Guns, ammo, boxes of equipment, people, soldiers, the smell of gunpowder. The tiny area around my bunk bed is my territory. One of the company's guardian owns does contract work in areas suffering from civil war. This third-party company is one of them. Our clients are mainly the governments of developed countries, as well as companies who want to protect their foreign branches. Guarding important people, fighting certain factions, and maintaining supply lines. I'm told in this day and age official armies outsource much of their work to private corporations. Plus, we're in a very special situation. The third-party company hires only superhumans as soldiers. Hence, we can complete exceedingly difficult missions. I put down my gun and take off my other equipment. I lie down on the bed. I close my eyes and one of the conversations in the background starts to stand out. I still can't understand English very well, except for the simplest of conversations. I'm doing my best to learn it. Partly for that reason, my comrades in arms are still treating me as a dead weight. It's only natural to be hit and kicked if you can't even understand the orders you are given. Even though I can understand quite a bit now, they still act like I'm getting in the way. I'm not very skilled either. The most energetic superhumans tend to also be the most close-minded. They tend to gather around similar people and are more discriminatory than the average person. The stronger superhumans hang out together and despise the weaker ones. Namely, me, just like when I was in Japan. I do get a little sleep. When I open my eyes, I can see Louis' long, dark arm draping down from the top bunk. I can hear him snoring. He's one of my few friends. It's thanks to him that I can just about keep up with the work we are given. I'm very grateful. Louis and I came here at around the same time, so despite the age difference, we feel like peers. Since Lewis grew up with Romance languages, he has just as much trouble with English as I do, so that helped us connect. As if not sharing a common language was no barrier at all. If anything, that made it easier. He's actually much older than me, but he acts so innocent he feels the same age. And as for skill, he's better than me, but he still gets looked down on.
本当は僕は投げやりが得意さ。
He tells me without any desire to hide it. Since ordinary people may see us on many of our operations, we can't use our powers too often. But just in case, he does have special composite metal throwing spears under his bed. I remember the boomerang Mikuni used. I once picked one of the spears up and it was so heavy I couldn't comfortably hold it. I doubt I could throw it effectively. I spent a lot of my breaks in the nearby town with Lewis. This town has been ungoverned for a long time, so it's been getting less and less safe. A UN peacekeeping force is stationed here now, but there are at least 3 armed factions here too, so the bloodbath never ends. The reasons are complicated, I only vaguely understand it. According to Lewis, it's because the locals have formed their own guerrilla group to fight the various factions that want to gain control of this town. But I have no idea what value there is in holding this huge, lonely town. There's no safe place to store vehicles here. And it's perfectly normal to run over landmines or EIDs on any of the roads here. The guerrillas are primarily targeting the other armed factions or the peacekeeping forces, but there are always civilian casualties too. Every day you hear at least a couple of explosions and some gunfire. That's the kind of place we are working in. But people are living here, they aren't running away from it. The town has somewhat better food than the camp. Before the UN arrived, the town was perpetually on the verge of starvation. Because the other armed factions were stealing all the food they could grow. That part has improved a lot. Alcohol and cigarettes aren't very appealing to superhumans, probably because we don't get intoxicated as easily. For the same reason, all other drugs have little effect. For superhumans, food is the simplest and most pleasurable luxury. Some of them hoard all the supersized dishes, some of them buy tons of chocolate, others grab every chunk of meat they can find. I see my comrades doing stuff like that all the time in the marketplace and the dining hall. When we are full, we often play soccer. We do that in an elementary school courtyard, so the local kids can join in. Of course, we hold back so they don't notice our powers. We can't talk to them, but that's no problem. We don't need to talk to play soccer. In the end, Lewis and I end up being heroes, even though we were holding back a lot. Apparently, the more you exercise, the more obvious it is. There are a lot of kids here. The games continue without breaks. Lewis and I are constantly getting called out. I don't mind. I actually enjoy this. I get a little carried away. The ball flies up so high we can't see it anymore. The children stand with their mouths agape. Oops. Lewis tells them I have a spring in my shoe. I take off my shoe and show it to everyone. I pull a spring out of it like a magician.
見ろみんな、バネがあったぞ。卑怯者だ。
A magician's way of escaping trouble. Apparently, that spring was part of a broken rifle. Lewis always helps me out like that.
ルイスはどうしてここに来たの？
どうしてとは？
One day, I try asking him about that.
俺は国に居づらくなってきたんだ。
そういうやつは多いだろうな。
そうなのかな。みんな我が物顔で騒いで悩みなんてないみたいだ。
空騒ぎをしているだけさ。みんな怖いし不安だ。騒いでいる間は強い自分でいられると思っている。
そんなものなのかな。
僕はね、普通にサッカー選手になりたかった。子供の頃から運動ができたから絶対なれると思ってたんだ。
黒服が来た。
プロテストに応募した直後だったよ。諜報局の普通に派手なシャツを着た連中だったけどね。で、お前は生まれつき体が強い病気だから不正になるのでスポーツ選手にはなれないって言われた。
どこも一緒なんだな。
才能を金に変えることができる。貧乏人には悪い話じゃない。
He smiles. His usual perfect smile. Our combat missions continue. The patrols are especially tough. When the armed factions want to attack us, they always lie in ambush on the roads. From their point of view, if they can control the supply line, they can steal the supplies for the city and get back at the people in it, who to them are just slaves of the foreigners. Since all the dangerous points lie along a single stretch of road, it's actually more dangerous than the town itself. There's no end to the ambushes and the IEDs in abandoned buildings. When foreigners come here, they pretty much always get attacked at some point. Usually to get whatever cash they might have. Some of our enemies banded together in order to free their people. Most of them are a little different from mountain bandits at this point. Once in a while, one of our comrades dies. I've seen it happen twice now. It didn't freak me out as much as it did in Kasamatsuri. I'm getting used to death. I spend my breaks with the children. They are the only friends I have other than Louis. The poor children are always smiling. Eventually, I learn their names and faces, and I start to recognize them individually. When the UN aid allowed them to reopen their elementary school, they were all happy about it. Though I am sure many of them were just happy about the free lunches it offered. Some of them really love learning. One of the girls has an interest in computers. She says she wants to be a programmer someday and escape poverty that way. Louis and I decide not to give them any money. We have a lot of reasons, but the biggest one is that there'd never be an end to it. No matter how much money we had, we wouldn't be able to help all of them. But we agreed that getting a second-hand computer for the girl was reasonable. First-generation laptops cost next to nothing in the Asian circle. So I mail-ordered one. Finding a way to ship it here was much harder than finding the money to buy it. Once we got it, I donated it to the school. In the grand scheme of things, it's just a drop in the bucket, but I'm satisfied with it. I enter my second year of mercenary work. Around this time, we get a real mission. More than 80 superhumans gather in an underground briefing room. The company's normal contract work consists of operations using small independent teams. That's to ensure no one realizes they're superhumans. For instance, we are very good at infiltrating areas and counter-terrorism operations. It's rare for this many superhumans to be mobilized together. Thanks to information from the Drug Control Department, we now know where the armed forces in the city are producing drugs, which are their main sources of income. Recently, some highly addictive drugs have emerged in this area and spread throughout the world. Chemicals with several powerful effects, including sedation, tranquilizing, and ecstasy. They are most effective when injected intravenously, and the effects last for 8 to 16 hours. Resistance to them builds slowly, but they do weaken the body dramatically, as if they're accelerating aging. Some say it sucks the life out of people. Our head of intelligence will now explain the situation. This operation has two objectives: destroy the production facility and neutralize the armed forces there. We've confirmed the presence of a few dozen familiars in the area around this drug factory. A map appears on the monitor. The factory is located here. They're squatting in a ghost town. Why can't we simply carpet bomb the area? Annoyingly, this factory is near the border. We can't do anything that would risk provoking the neighboring country. There are two ways in, from the north and the south. Everywhere along this road will be a potential combat area. What's the area like around the road? Farmland. It's relatively flat, never more than 30 meters higher or lower than the road, but the crops give plenty of cover. It's not well guarded either. We'll infiltrate through here. The familiars we've confirmed are mostly hounds and birds, but there are also at least 2 medium-sized familiars about 5 meters tall. Phase 1, infiltrate the area. Phase 2, take positions around the facility. Phase 3, recon. Phase 4, take control of the facility. Seize all drugs and the chemicals used to make them. Shoot Guardians on sight. We will now cover the roles and equipment for those of you who will be in combat teams. We discuss all the details. Movement routes, equipment, what order to breach the facility in, information about the familiars, how the enemy patrols are set up, the layout of the building, what to do in case of failure, rendezvous points, call signs for everyone. It takes most of a day to cover every conceivable eventuality. By the time it ends, everyone's tired. Since Lewis and I aren't very confident in our English, we talk to each other to make sure we understood it correctly.
魔物使いを拘束するという単語はなかったよね。射殺だけ。
射殺すれば魔物の動きが止まる。それで別チームを支援できる。
ああ、そういうことか。
Lewis, Bond, come here. We're in the variant team.